Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I got another interview for you today. I got to sit down with Paige Howard to talk about her role, her cameo in Hollywood.con. But more than talking to her about her cameo in Hollywood.con, we also did a interview with the lead actor, director, creator of Hollywood.con, Mika Boorem. So check out the channel for that. But I got to talk to Paige about her whole career, her journey to becoming an actress, her love for stage and screen, how she's been handling things in COVID. Now she's writing stuff as well. So we kind of do a deep dive on her whole history and her whole career, as you know, I love to do. She was very interesting, very upbeat. It was a really fun interview. Check it out. Hey, Paige, how you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This should be fun. You have a new movie that's out now, Hollywood. Do you say the dot? Is it Hollywood.con or Hollywood.con?
Yeah. We say Hollywood con, we say Hollywood con, we say Hollywood.con, depends on the day, the hour, you know?
Okay, yeah. But before we get there, I always like to ask people like in the arts, creative people, how they got into the business, and I imagine your story is pretty unique.
I mean, yeah, I guess, I got into the business because, I mean, quite frankly, that's what was familiar to me. That's what my family does. And that's what I was raised on sets um, and, and thankfully, like it's a business that happens to be really, really fun and, creative and expressive and, all the beautiful things in my opinion. Uh, but yeah, I really did. I was just, my dad and my sister are both in the business and my grandparents and my uncle. And so I had a lot of really strong, um, beautiful people that I looked up to. And so I kind of was like, I'm curious about this road. And then I started doing it in high school and went to NYU for it. And then just started working out of NYU. So that's, I got into it because it was, the world I was born into and I stayed because it's a lot of fun.
Because you were around it pretty much your whole life, and it looks like you started acting pretty young. Was there ever a thought of something else, or was it just such a natural fit? You just kind of ran with it.
You know what? I think initially I just sort of ran with it. Uh, but as I get older, there are many other things that I'm exploring that are so exciting to me. I love writing, and so I'm exploring that more. And I definitely feel like it's so exciting because we live in a time where like the age of the hyphenates, where people can be multiple things and they can contribute and play in the world and I love to cook, I love to write and I love to collaborate in all ways and forms. So I love film and I love television and I love theater, and that will always be a huge part of my life. But I'm definitely exploring other things and have a couple projects that I'm working on that I'm excited to share. So I always say just like I think that we're such multidimensional, naturally creative human beings. Are just we're creative beings, and I always just think that even if people are sort of set on doing one thing in their life, I think that I challenge them to try all sorts of things. Even if you're excited about it at all, like go for it. You don't have to be good at it. Just see what it does, and then it's really interesting when you sort of open those doors for yourself where it takes you. So
That's a really good tip, and I think an interesting piece of advice you kind of just gave everybody, that try to do something creative, even if it's just on a whim. Like you don't have to quit your job and pursue it
yeah,
100%, but just dive in.
yeah, give yourself the shot. Like go for it. And I think it's so rewarding on so many levels if we're not just um, focused on what we're achieving or what we're accomplishing, and just more sort of what we're experiencing and how we want to exercise ourselves and what we want to play with and what we want to explore. I don't know, I personally find it to make for a much more fulfilling life, and I surprise myself all the time. So I feel like everyone would probably have that experience. anyway.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people will realize how fulfilling it is, even if they just do it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said you went to NYU to study. Was it theater and film?
Yeah, theater, film. A branch of Tisch that's called Stone Street, and that's film and television. And then I spent most of my time though studying theater.
Okay. And that was kind of where you,
Yeah.
well, maybe not where you first started, but you jumped into the theater after you finished school, right?
Yeah, that definitely is where I first started. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
act. I actually did not start professionally acting. Um, maybe like a little thing on one of my dad's films, as an extra, but like really professionally acting until uh, my senior year of college. And I went right into theater. I did a show at the Vineyard Theater here in New York City, called Mary Rose, and it was so fun and it was awesome, such a great experience. And then from there, I started to do a little television and some other theater and a little film, and but yeah, I definitely got my start in theater, and I'm primarily trained in theater.
Do you have a preference? Is that like kind of your first love and the TV stuff's fun too, or is it all good?
You broke up there a little bit, but I think I got most of it. Was theater my first love? Was the question? Is that
Yeah, I was kind of asking if you preferred one to the other. Like if
yeah?
theater is your first love and you also love TV, or if theater is your primary thing, but you'll do some TV or whatever your mix is.
Well, I mean, anyone who knows me well knows that I just don't have favorites. Like in life, I'm incapable of having favorites, except for my dog, maybe. But I just like, favorites. I can't do it. So I have to, stand by that with this. I love it all. Like I think for me, it really depends on, it's really about the project. And it feels good for me to sort of exercise and stretch all the different muscles. Like I really love film and I love television, and it's such a different world than theater. But at the same time, like theater just feeds something I'll never be able to really get from film or television. So while it's all fun, yeah, I really like it all. I think a lot of actors, I mean, I guess that people do have favorites in this regard, but for me, I really like it all. I would never want to give any one of those up, and that includes voiceover. I love voiceover.
When did you get into voiceover?
That's a new thing for me. I actually over the pandemic, I did a show with Nickelodeon called The Astronauts, and it's a really great show. Uh, and I was the voice of Matilda. So she's the AI. She like is like the Alexa of the spaceship. Um, and we did it all from my like little closet here in New York City. We just turned it into a recording studio, and it was so fun. It was such a different medium, but it was just such a blast.
That's got to be worlds apart from doing stage acting, where it's all about kind of over enunciating things and really getting into the role to, sell the emotion to the back row. And then you take all the
Yeah.
physical out of it. Well, at least a performance, I'm sure you're still performing for yourself. But
Mhm.
how does
Yeah,
that feel going from one to the other?
the way it feels for me is it just kind of feels like I sort of feel like I'm not one of these. Those people that are like really good at the piano or the guitar, and then it's very easy for them to kind of dive into and learn these other instruments. Like, oh yeah, I can pick up this. I play the guitar, so I can figure out how to play like the bass really easily or something like that. But it's still a different instrument. I feel that way about theater to film to television to voiceover work. The background that I have, like I feel like pretty well prepared to dive in and kind of start to play around with these other instruments. But it certainly feels like you're playing another instrument. When I was doing the voiceover stuff, it just you're articulating, like you said, it's like a completely different way of articulating and yourself and emoting, and like it's just a really the scene work is the same, but it's just it's just a different instrument. It's just a different instrument that you're working with. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's really interesting, that whole world.
it is interesting. It's really interesting. It's fun.
And you said you did all your lines. You kind of made like a little recording studio out of your closet. Did you have somebody maybe like through a headset stepping in for the other lines, or were you just kind of giving it your all with your own character's lines?
Well, most of the time I was on like 95% of the time I was recording with the producer, with the, the sound tech, and the AD a lot of the time. So I there would be a team on the other side, and we'd have like three different screens and recording setup. And if I needed to be thrown some lines, they would throw me some lines. If not, I kind of the way that we did it, you just sort of lay down tracks repeatedly, and then you skip the lines in between, and then you just jump to the next line. Um, so it's not like a typical. It's not like you're playing a scene. It's just you're really just delivering your lines, and then imagining what might be happening in between. So
Yeah, that's cool the way you can kind of give yourself a version of what the final product would be in your head so you can do your part. But then when you see the final version, it's kind of a surprise. Did you
oh
have
my gosh, when I was sitting down, I mean, it's always so fun to like sit down. I mean, Mika Boorem, and I, when we were talking about Hollywood.con, we were talking about this moment, like the moment when you sit down and you watch something just come together, and like there are so many moving parts and moving pieces. And I always feel that way with like any of the projects that you're working on. You're like, whoa, look what we made, guys! What a surprise! And definitely for the astronauts, I felt that way, even though it was just voiceover. Even more so, I think, because I wasn't looking at myself. I was just hearing my voice, and I was just completely immersed and like completely absorbed. And but yeah, it was cool to, with that one in particular, to really have no idea what to expect.
right? Yeah, because that was your first outing as it too.
Yes, it was. Yes, it.
That's really cool. Did you
And a
have
lot of it I was doing in the dark because I was just.
sorry, can you
Oh,
say it
you
one
go
more
ahead.
time?
You go ahead.
I was just
Oh
gonna
yeah, I
ask
was
if
just
you
saying, and a
had
lot of it. Yeah, you go.
there's a delay, sorry. Usually StreamYard's a little stronger than this. I'm not sure what's going on.
It's a dance. It's a dance.
Yeah. Okay, you were saying you were doing it in the dark?
No, I mean, I was also kind of in the dark just because, I did a little bit of the footage, um, but but I hadn't seen like a lot of the dailies or anything like that. So when I saw the astronauts in particular, it was just like such a surprise. But anyways, but we're past that conversation. Sorry.
That's okay. I was actually gonna ask if you had any concept art before you went in, like to get a visual in your mind.
Yeah, I did. I saw the pilot. And they were keeping me in the loop for sure. It was just a different. Typically, like you go into a studio and then you have, all of um, you're just sort of watching through it every single time, every single take. And we did get to the point to where we were able to start doing that, but early on it was a little bit, everyone was figuring it out at the beginning of the pandemic, and figuring out like how do we keep productions going, from everyone while everyone's isolating in their homes. So but yeah.
Did you have a like a tech learning curve on that where you had to record your own files and send them somewhere for the processing?
Yes, I did. At first, it was that way, and then it changed. Everyone got the hang of it really quickly, but there was definitely a learning curve for sure. And
It's
that was the case. I worked on a couple other projects during that time, and everyone was sort of doing their own thing. And then there was a moment when like everything kind of clicked for everybody, and each studio or each production had their own way of doing it, and it was pretty streamlined. So
it's cool how fast they adapt.
yes, it really, really is cool.
Keep the ball rolling. Also, during the pandemic, did you
Yeah.
get to focus on your writing more? I mean, everyone had so much more time.
Yeah, I definitely did. I definitely did, especially everything wrapped with the astronauts, um, right around the holidays. So since January, I've been able to like really kind of buckle down and make some progress in those areas. So that's been exciting and fun. Yeah, yeah. And then also, everything's just opening back up in the entertainment industry right now. So it's like auditions are back, new projects are coming up. Everything that people, like me, like everyone that's been working on creative projects over the pandemic are like now bringing them out for us and sharing them with us all. So like people are getting on board, and yeah, I think it's going to be a really busy couple. I think it's going to be a busy year, couple of years for everybody.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a
Hopefully.
flood of new content like end of next year, mid end of next year.
Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
you're writing it, is it all screen based, or are you working on like novels, poetry, anything else that you kind of branch out into?
Yeah, again, these nothing is in the can yet. So I mean, like it's just I don't want to say too much because it's still manifesting, but
Sure.
but uh I'm far enough along though to be able to. Yeah, I'm working on a couple of children's books that I'm really excited about, and then I'm working on one screen project.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So I'm excited. New ventures. New ventures.
Absolutely. The children's books, are you going to have any, or maybe you can't go this far yet, but are you going to have illustrations with it?
Yes. Yes.
Is that something else you dabble in?
I'm not illustrating, but I'm working right now with like a really amazing illustrator. She's just her work is just inspiring. It's just incredible how quickly she churns out these amazing works of art. Like it's mind blowing to me. Mind blowing. People are so
You
talented.
get
People are so talented.
to, and you get to see your words come to life. So I'm sure that's
Yeah,
exciting.
it is exciting. It is exciting. It's really exciting.
Well, we should probably talk about Hollywood.con, since it's your
Yes,
latest movie that
let's
came
talk
out.
about it.
How did that come across your desk?
Well, actually, Mika Boorem is a very, very, very close friend of mine, and it was so fun. I mean, I'm just a cameo in this movie, but it was such a blast to be a part of. Mika, when she first started working on this, she started writing it a couple years ago. She was like, "Listen, Paige," she was kind of bringing me along for the ride, um, and she, because we had worked together in 2010 on Virgin Alexander. Um, we were both actresses in it, and like just became really, really good friends. So she knew me as an actress prior to ever stepping into directing. So so she just she just was like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yes, girl, absolutely." Um, so that's how it happened, and it was such a great shoot. Like Mika is such a pro, and honestly, she's the only person that her and her dad Ben, but um, she's really the only person that could pull this together because she's so resourceful, and it really is such a testament. The cast is so good, and it's just such a testament to like her years of hard work, as a child actress and and a young adult actress, and sort of all of these decades that she has. She just, a lot of them are just people respect her that read the script, liked it, and wanted to be a part of this new journey she's going on as a director and as a writer. So it was exciting. It was really inspiring to be honest, to be able to participate in a film that um, my friend worked so diligently on for a good couple years.
So you started it way pre-pandemic, then I would guess.
No, I mean it wasn't it the pandemic slowed everything down, but we did it a couple years. She was writing it like a couple years ago. So I'd say like 3 years ago, I think, or so. I'm not exactly sure, but everything time has folded now because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, when was what? I had no idea, but
Was it a week ago or 10 years?
exactly. So yeah,
The movie got, like, the scope gets really big. Like, it was kind of surprising, especially for a comedy, because usually comedies you can kind of get away with just a handful of locations, and you kind of run into the same weird characters, and some people come in and out, but the scope gets pretty huge.
Oh my gosh, it really, really does. It's a wild, wild, wild ride, isn't it? It's
It is.
different characters. There's a lot going on. It's yeah, it's really got that zaniness to it. It's yeah, I know. It's like definitely, definitely a lot of moving parts.
Were you upset you didn't get to go to some of the more exotic locations?
I would have loved, in particular, I really, and there were a couple times I tried to get down there to Mexico, and it just didn't happen. But I would have loved to have been able to like hop around um, with Mika and they went all over. They went all over. Not to mention the incredible animals that they have in the film. They have a camel, they have like a wildebeest, they have all sorts of wild creatures.
It was cool to see how big it was going, and like they got some really nice wide shots of the scenery to show that we're not just on like a back lot, like we did this, and
Yeah.
I
Oh
thought that
yeah.
made the movie feel huge.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely, definitely. I mean, they really went for it. And um I mean, we all know these people that like have these relationships, these contacts with people that just blow your mind. You're like, "What? How? Wait, what?" And Ben and Mika are that way, where you're just like, wow, like they just know so many different people that have, that lead such a variety of interesting, um, uh, really unique lives. And I think a lot of the fun for them in making this movie was how do we kind of incorporate all of this, you know, all of this stuff that we are privy to because we have these really cool, interesting people and places at our exposure.
Yeah, it kind of felt like whenever you hear positive stories about people who work in the industry that just everybody likes and no one's got a bad word to say, and then when they make a movie like this, you see all these familiar faces come in for a
Yeah.
scene or two. Like you said your part was basically just a cameo because you're friends with her, so you had no problem going to Los Angeles, hanging out with her for a little bit, doing it, and it seemed like there was a lot of that goodwill.
A lot of that. And I think, yeah, Tom Arnold, so many people just hopped on and like I said, that's really because adamant to me and how incredible to work with and how intelligent and creative she is. Um, and people just, yeah, people want to support her. And she did, she really worked her butt off to get this accomplished. Um, and, uh, and I think everyone was really, really happy and excited to be a part of that and to support her in that.
That's the kind of stuff I find the most fun about doing these interviews with people who work in your creative fields. As you were saying earlier, you act, but you also like to cook and you write, and you're just branching out and trying all these creative endeavors. And then similarly, someone like Mika who does creative things as well, but how do I get this done? I don't have the funding. I can't do it. Like that's not an option. It's we're going to go for it. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah, and she did an amazing job. She got all the funding. She got a cast that she was really proud of and excited about. Yeah, and it was just, yeah, I mean, it's really, I think I see, I see every film as like a masterpiece because it's just this big conglomeration of like so many people coming together and giving their best effort and being really good at what they do, and then you come out with something that's extraordinary. It really is just the power of like collaborating and working together and giving your everyone sort of giving their best effort. And I think it's pretty magical, and I feel like Hollywood.con is a shining example of that, you know.
Yeah, it definitely is a great example of what determination, and obviously she's talented. Everyone involved is talented as well.
Yeah.
But just what determination can get accomplished is really cool.
Oh yeah, it's powerful.
We kind of going back to the pandemic aspect a little bit, which I know everyone's probably sick to death of talking about it, but were you able to keep auditioning during all
No.
that?
Yeah, auditions really started to pick up for me. I'd say like I think like 6, 7 months ago or so. Maybe like right before like November, I think it really started to pick up, at least for me. And everyone's kind of gotten into the groove of just putting themselves on tape and so yeah, like it's definitely picked up on, for me. I think, when I speak to my friends, it's picking up for them as well. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I mean, I wonder how soon it will be before until we're all like auditioning back in the rooms with directors and things like that, or if we're just gonna stay Zoom and Zoom meetings, and I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I kind of have a feeling it's never going to go fully back to the way it was. I think using the technology is kind of here to stay for, at least 50%.
Oh. Yeah, it's so convenient.
Yeah.
It's just it makes sense in so many ways. I personally, I really prefer auditioning, at least those initial auditions, for my own home, like recording it. I prefer that. I prefer that. So I won't be upset if we need to keep doing it that way for a while.
That was actually my next question. If you preferred the process of self or self
Hey,
taping, where you can do multiple takes and choose the best one that you want to put forward, or if you rather be there.
oh yeah, I think for me, the hardest part of this job of being in this industry as an actress is the auditioning process. The auditioning process is so. Some people are really fantastic at it. I am not. Like there, will. I can do a great job on set. I'm, really when I've got to perform and all. I'm great. But for me, auditioning is a very different muscle, um, and I find personally that when I can tape, self tape, um, I can send forward a more accurate representation of what my performance would look like if I was working on set. So so that's why I prefer it.
It's got to be so foreign to walk into a room with a handful of people you likely don't know, or maybe one of them you've met before, and just turn it on, be in the middle of something, and then turn it off. And it's so weird.
Yeah, it is a little bit disassociating. It's definitely a little bit like out of body. But there are some, like all things, there are some people that are just such skillful auditioners. I don't know. They're definitely out there, and like I have so much respect. I wish I had that skill set, but I'm like shaking in my boots every single time. I've got to I don't know. It just feels so different. It's harder for me to get into a room and audition than it is for me to perform live in front of 400 people, 500 people, whatever it is,
That's
I don't know.
yeah, that's interesting that I kind of didn't make the theater association where you're basically auditioning, but you're doing the whole thing
Yeah.
every night you perform.
It's different. It's just different because it's something that, like you're you put hours into, like you're anchored into with a cast. There's like it's yours, it's your part. And um I think that sometimes a an audition will come around where you're like, oh my god, this is like, I feel such a sense of ownership over this. And most of the time it's like you're kind of still going into an audition and getting a feel for what their vision is, and you have your vision, but it's also just a really awkward setup where like it's just a little it's just awkward. It's just awkward.
That's probably the best word for it.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. There's, it's just it's a small price to pay to be part of the industry, to do it, to do the actual job, but it's definitely for me personally my least favorite part.
I'm sure a lot of people agree with you.
I'm sure. I know it's the case.
Once you get the role, you can kind of have fun and dig in
That's
and
right. Yeah. Yeah.
take ownership.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to eat up your whole day, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to me.
My pleasure, Adam. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. If you want to give people your socials or anything else you wanted to promote, anywhere you want to
Yeah,
send them.
just yeah, Instagram, Paige Carlisle Howard. And I do a lot of cooking and kind of keep everyone up to date, and it's a lot of fun. So follow me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it, and good luck with everything.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
I'd like to thank Paige one more time for taking the time to come on and talk to me about her career, her life, her writing. Hollywood.con. It was a cool movie. You should check it out. It's a indie comedy that kind of plays like a less frat guy Jay and Silent Bob reboot, I guess, is a way I could put it. No knocking on Jay and Silent Bob. I loved Reboot. I love Kevin Smith. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. Thank you, Paige, for coming on. Best of luck with everything going forward. We have a lot more interviews, a lot more new movie coverage, comic coverage. I even have an unboxing that I've been sitting on for like 3 months now because I try to get these interviews out to you faster. People take the time to talk to me. I want to get them out there. So make sure you like and subscribe. You're not going to want to miss out going forward. Also, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week wherever you get your podcasts. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, merchandise videos, and more. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All of our cuts can be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I released a comic book at the beginning of this year. It's an ongoing series called Social Studies. It's a slice-of-life comedy comic about the high school experience, all the ridiculousness that goes with it. And we jam all that through the prism of the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and love, and that really shaped our sense of humor and our creative path of our own. You can check that at socialstudiescomic.com and watch this little teaser to see what it's like.